This is the Nomad Futurist podcast, a podcast about the evolution of technology, society, and transformation. Connect with us, share your thoughts with us at nomadfuturist.com. Let's get this started. Here are Phil and Nabeel.
Hello. Welcome to Nomad Futurist, live from Honolulu, Hawaii. This is your co-host, Nabeel Mahmood.
I still have problems believing that we're live in Honolulu. It's true. We're here. This is your co-host, Philip Koblence.
And you have Afonso Salema, CEO of Start Campus.
Afonso, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. I believe we've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while, and with all the time zones that we've got to deal with, I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
We're finally in exactly the same time zone.
Where are you? Where are you based?
So I'm based out in Lisbon.
So
10 hours.
Portugal.
10 hours ahead of our
I think the only time this could have happened is if we all dissented in Honolulu. It had to be in Honolulu.
Yeah, there you go. Or Bellamora.
I've been looking through the conference to see if anybody has had a longer traveling journey. I was on an 11.5-hour direct flight from Jersey, but I mean, it seems like it'd be easy.
25 hours.
25 hours. And like 3 days later, by the time you land, who knows what time it is? My God.
Well, you'd be surprised how much work you can do in a plane.
Oh, there's no question about it. I was saying to somebody on the way here that if I had to pick like the number one, productivity benefit that we've had as a culture, Wi-Fi on the plane. My God, Wi-Fi on the plane has made those trips.
But no calls.
No calls.
Exactly.
Which is actually better because
so now you get it.
Now I get it.
Exactly.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
I love this technology thing.
Computing.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. It's perfect. All right. So who are you? What do you do?
So I'm CEO of Start Campus. Start Campus is a new company. We started out late 2020, but the idea stemmed in 2019. I've been on the infrastructure space most of my life, but not on the data center industry. And I'm what you can call a power expert, a deep power expert. You can throw anything at me.
All right, somebody get me a plug. I want to throw a plug.
We're going to have to do that at some point in time. Right. So let's step it back a little bit. So what's your background?
Did you want to be a deep power expert when you were a kid?
No, not directly. But when I went to college, I studied industrial engineering, and I specialized in power systems. And I was excited. I was excited how networks develop, how you need to think about holistically about entire countries and entire systems to make it work. And then how the small pieces to the big ones make it work. And then my career took me all over the world. So I did projects in China, in LATAM, in Middle East, in Europe, of course, many places in Europe, in Africa. So I was lucky enough to have been exposed to all types of infrastructure you can think of. And only later in my career, I started being exposed to digital infrastructure.
You don't think of power so much as a network, but it's the same concept, right? Lines going to a centralized location, lines going to individual places.
So you're much younger than both, Phil.
Either that or he's aged incredibly well. It's possible.
It is very possible.
The life in Lisbon, I hear, is significantly better than the life in Jersey.
The
life in Hawaii. Yeah, I don't know if Lisbon can compare.
As a kid, did you know much about the industry? Was that even a part of what you wanted to do?
What were your parents? Were your parents in engineering?
No. My parents had nothing to do with engineering, but I always, with everything that was around the house. I remember being 7, trying to figure out how the fridge worked. I completely ruined it. I hid under the bed for an entire day until my parents found out. But I'd love to disassemble things and reassemble them, but
can you imagine coming home and the fridge is disassembled?
Well, so in this case, I don't want to one-up him, but I took a television.
You took a television apart?
Yes, yeah.
So then you could have put it together.
I could not put it together, and that's when they had the tube.
Right.
So I remember having the first computer in my house, and I learned everything on my own.
Were you an only child?
No, and one day I found the command format C. I wonder what this does. My father was.
Oh my God.
Well, now he's happy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. You turned out right. All right. So
did you ever buy them a fridge to replace it? That seemed like a good.
He actually buy the stove for my mother. So
close enough.
That's going
10 years afterwards.
Mommy, I will buy you a stove one day. I'm sorry.
Well, there you go. Now it makes sense how to power things. So
Perfect.
there you go. All right. So take us through the journey and how you got involved in the information technology and the data center space.
So in 2019, I would have done everything that you could have done in power industries, from designing full large company strategies to going to all types of power plants, grid networks, gas networks, roads, airports, everything you can think about in infrastructure. And I was a little bit bored because at the given point, everything starts with something to be the same. But there was something that was nagging me because I was seeing two trends which are unstoppable. The first trend, it's a power trend, where you can see that coal plants, old gas plants, and even nuclear power plants are going to disappear. Eventually they will disappear. There's a comeback of nuclear in the US, and that could be a separate debate, but they will eventually disappear. And if you take out the polluting bit, you actually have some really hardcore infrastructure, really, really good.
They're difficult to replicate.
Very difficult to replicate because the entire systems were built around those. The entire power grid was built around these mammoths. And you took them out, you spoke with power people, they'll say, oh no, biomass. No, guys, you're seeing it through. So I wanted
Breaking news, biomass is not a thing. Honestly, we've just broken.
And then you have another trend, which if you look at the behavior of most hyperscalers, they're going bigger and bigger. And if they want to stay competitive.
Hence the word hyper.
Exactly. And if they want to stay competitive, scale actually makes a lot of sense. There's a whole bunch of requirements to meet with that scale. And the two of them had to match. So I've mapped out close to 550 sites in Europe where this strategy could work. And I've selected 12 of them, which were really, really good ones.
And these are power plants that have already...
Power plants are similar infrastructure.
Right.
Which have a death warrant.
You see the writing on the wall.
Exactly. So you can reuse a lot of those facilities to power data center, essentially.
So you're basically recycling.
Yes. It's circular economy at its best. If you look at these facilities and that is just the mere waste of what goes when you dismantle them, it's just insane. It's just insane.
Do they know they're dying? Like, do you have to sometimes convince these people that, they have a short lifespan left?
Depends. Some of them, they don't know. They have no clue. And they think that they can still do something about it. Hence, biomass keeps coming. But others, for them, it's a huge problem. And they need someone to sort it out.
Right. I mean, they might know that they have to, stop. But I guess that's a pretty expensive problem to have, right? Because
exactly.
You can't just walk away.
And you need to think as well, given these mammoths, they generate entire ecosystems around them. So you have a lot of people employed by these power plants. I mean, power plants by no means employ as much as offices that occupy the same footprint, but they do employ much less people than a data center with the same footprint. Much, much less. So on our facility alone, we're expecting to employ between 700 and 1,200 people. It's quite a large campus. And the power plants employed 2. So whole speech that data centers are not trade shop. No, right. It depends on where you're coming.
It's all about context, right?
Exactly.
So walk us through your journey. I see that you were at Deloitte, you were an analyst, and that was a significant part of your early part of your career.
So you graduated? Actually, Deloitte was a very small stint. So I've stayed a lot on the investment banking side. I started out covering real estate.
So you graduate with an industrial engineering degree.
And then you go into
financial analyst.
They love engineers.
Right?
They love engineers.
Sure. You're unique, right?
That's not the analytical. And
you could probably learn how to use a spreadsheet. So it's perfect.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, just move the decimal point over.
Exactly. So I've started investment banking, and I started on an interesting time because I was covering real estate during a boom cycle in Iberia. And then
the big Iberian real estate boom. Who hasn't?
And then
I don't think Americans have the slightest idea what Iberia is.
When is that? When was that?
Boom and bust cycles in real estate are common.
Sure.
But surviving them and going through them, it's a learning experience.
So what year was that?
So that was 2004.
So right before we were getting into the bust for us, yeah.
But as someone who's helping companies navigate through their strategy, you can actually Doesn't matter if you're on the boom or the bust cycle, you're always employed.
Right.
Always employed. It's just a matter of what problem you need to solve. And it was eye-opening to see how people behave on boom and bust cycles and how to navigate through those complex situations.
I always say a big part of what I do that people would be surprised by is how much of, whether it's on the operation side or the sales side, is psychology.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's nice to hear that.
It's, I think, the most interesting phone call I ever received was at 4 a.m. from a CEO of a company calling us. We were still in the office working, and he called us, said, guys, I really need to know, do I need to declare that we're bankrupt tomorrow or not? Because there's a legal liability on it. Mm-hmm, and he was torn apart because he didn't want to see his company go under, but he had to report it as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would have serious legal implications.
Right.
So 4 a.m. said, we just finished. We can save your company. You don't need to declare it tomorrow. And then we start the whole process, and the company is still thriving.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. So, being the finance guy,
we should do that guy.
Well, yeah. How was that call at 4 a.m. in the morning? How did you feel?
And then I passed through to the energy side, which was my passion when I was studying, and that has been amazing. That has been an amazing ride. From modeling entire power systems, I actually did power models that forecasted power prices on an hourly basis for periods of over 30 years. Helped strategize on how you play with your assets system-wide. I could tell you, say, company X, okay, you will fail under these conditions unless you start doing this. That was interesting.
Are those things that they assign you to do, or did you have to come up with like unique ways to? No, well, obviously, yeah.
No.
But it's not like there's a guidebook of how to model energy usage for dummies.
No, you need to think it through. There are a lot of people modeling it. Most of them make it a black box so that you cannot replicate. But once you understand the principles, you can actually do it. And then it's a matter of running scenarios and seeing how things will play out. That helped me gain very specific insights on how energy prices behave, how they're formed, who has the best strategies, but also to help develop a couple of strategies. Given point, I was sick of just giving advice how other people should run their business, and now I need somewhere. But
right.
How is that transition like? I mean, it's a big decision when you have a steady paycheck. That's really what they call it. We haven't got one in a long time. How is that transition from being in the corporate world and having that steady income or that role that's not constantly changing to being an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm loving it. To be very blunt, I'm loving it, but I think it's naive to think that's a single person journey. And if you think that you're about to conquer the world and only you have the vision and only you can do it, forget it. You'll fail greatly. There, I managed to meet some incredible people alongside my career who've supported me a lot on this transition. And I went to them. I said, I've always been not on the driver's seat. I've been advising companies. To be on the driver's seat is a totally different role. How do I transition? So I went to a couple of my mentors. I asked for their help. I actually have some very supportive shareholders. Actually, that's how I got to them, because they promised me, we'll give you a platform. We'll help you set up a platform. You have all of these advisors to help you set up your shop. It's been very rewarding experience.
I think I'm just thinking in my head, right? You receive this 4 a.m. phone call from the CEO. Am I going to go under or not? Like, guy, I can't even imagine the stress that guy was under, right? And in the back of your head, you're like, you know what I want to be? I want to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, do I want to be making that call for him?
Now you're that guy. Now you're that guy.
Very different. Very different.
So define the feelings if you can, like receiving that call or making that call. I mean,
that's a good one. I haven't thought about that one yet.
I guess in that case, you'd rather be the one giving advice probably than the one.
It's much easier. Right? I mean, you can detach, and there's an important lesson there, which is when you are in the driver's seat, especially when you're on tremendous stress, you need to know how sane are you to make some judgments?
Right.
Who are you going to ask advice? Who do you trust that can be independently and unbiased to help you make the right call? Because, and that's, again, it's all about human psychology. You always think you can do it, but when you're in a tremendous amount of stress, your judgment is impaired.
Of course.
You need the first one to recognize that. Otherwise, we'll make the wrong call.
Right. But you also have to surround yourself with people that you can talk to, right? I think everyone people tend to do a couple of things, right? Again, the lessons of psychology. I think they tend to internal problems because they don't want to show. We've been trained as a society that professionally you always have to be killing it or crushing it. And you don't want to share that vulnerability. You don't want to say that, maybe a decision I made wasn't so great because, that you take that as a loss as opposed to what Nabeel says about failure, which is
first attempt in learning.
In learning. So I think those that don't recognize that, failure is just it's just a small deviation from success. And, what makes us who we are is how we handle failure. It's easy to handle success. That's easy. Most of the time it's luck. So,
but you said something which is true. It's surround yourself with the right people. You're bound to make wrong calls. You're bound to do. I was actually having a debate this morning about how different European culture is from the US. In the US, there's this single person myth. You want heroes. You want those heroes who are failing. And that's total. I can say it's total crap.
It's rubbish.
It's total rubbish. I mean,
it's so European, rubbish, crap. It's such shit. I want to be the American on this.
It's me, myself, and I.
But, and you look at successful companies are always the same thing. The CEO is the first among equals. And you need to find who those equals are. Who are the people that you trust that will challenge you? And if you're doing something wrong, they say, you're totally off.
Right.
And if you don't trust that you have those people, how to be successful.
Right. And that's why, you don't want to surround yourself with yes men. So many.
I think so. I mean, that gets into a whole conversation around the lines of the American culture versus the European culture. There's a respect factor of being team members and, you're contributing and you're part of a group, right? You're going to try to win it together. And like you said earlier, in the American culture, it's me. And how am I going to monetize? I mean, American companies versus European companies, the CEOs out here of multinationals are printing dollars when they can't pay or don't want to pay their core employees. Whereas, the European culture is very much about taking care of each other, nurturing, growing together. And the concept of holiday, right? You take time off. That it's bloody killed me in living in America, not once, but twice. So
third time's a charm.
You know that in investment, at least when I was in London, it was mandatory for you to take 2 weeks off every year and you cannot connect. And that's legal because given that you're in such a sensitive job, they want you to be disconnected from anything. So if you're doing anything that it's not
work related,
I think it's true. I think Americans in general, I think industry in America from the founding times has always been about, treat the people like cattle and they're just robots. And the very top tier can, be on vacations all the time and make all these decisions from a golf course. And the peons, don't even ask for vacation that you're allowed to have because that's a sign of weakness.
No.
So for people that are listening to this conversation right now and listening to the podcast, this is not that group that's actually just vacationing out in Hawaii. Right. We're actually trying to get some work.
Yes, absolutely. This is a really, really difficult day at the office with the palm trees in the background. But the one thing I want to ask is, you became an entrepreneur after working for everyone else, and obviously, from a time management perspective, you have to be always on. You can't just be like, I'm not coming to the office because to a certain extent, right? It's all you. Was that a difficult transition, with your family? Is that something that had to?
They know me, so I've always been like that.
Right.
So I wasn't much of a change. If anything, got worse. But there's a couple of interesting things, which is, what I tell my team is my goal is to make myself productive. So that the team works so well together that I'm not needed. Of course, it's one of those goals that you will never reach. You're always striving for. What does that mean? It means that you need to have fully functional teams and you're working with all of them to get the best. And that's your job. As CEO, your job is to get the best out of your team.
Right, you're a coordinator.
Well, it's empowering. It's empowering them as well.
Exactly.
Right? Steve Jobs, whatever people think of him, I think one of the things that's clicked with me is that the statement around the lines of he wanted to hire people that were smarter than him.
Yeah, I don't want to hire people to tell them what to do. I want to hire them so they can tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually following the same line. We do need that type of people. I need to be able to trust my team. It's trusting the team and letting them go completely loose. Right. This is the solution. Because you can only have people that grow if you challenge them. So you need to keep on challenging. You need to understand what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go.
You have to articulate the vision in such a way that they understand like what the roadmap is. I think corporate companies, particularly in America, I mean, I've never really worked for a big company, but the way I see it is they tend to compartmentalize their staff in a way that makes it so, the people are always able to be replaced because you don't want to rely too much on them. So you compartmentalize them, but it also it's incredibly suffocating because if you're working on something and you don't see how it fits into all of the puzzle pieces and you don't see the broader picture, 30,000 foot view or whatever you want to call it, it just doesn't fulfill you as much.
No, of course not.
And that's what, just the JOB is, right? No, and I think we finally, the cultural tipping point with, the gig economy and people, in charge of their own domain, even the tax structure in the US, you have to be your own corporation in order to be able to write off expenses, things like that. So, I think people are starting to understand this concept where we are the commodity, and it's the job really should be about bringing together these independent thinkers and kind of pushing them in a certain direction.
Do you know what I used to say to juniors to come to work with was, think that everything you produce has your own brand. Everything you produce has your own signature. Do you want that signature to be a sign of excellency, or that people can trust?
Mm-hmm. This is your work product, right?
Exactly.
But if you don't if they don't make it, if you don't make them part of it, then they won't, right? So
and then I would go to them and say, and you have an amazing team around you, so you have no excuses to fail. So if you're trying to do it on your own, it's like imagine that you're in college. Instead of doing the exam alone, everyone around you to help you get the right answer. So what's your excuse to get an A+?
So business, to be a successful business, it has to be like cheating on an exam.
Exactly.
or coordination. All right. So what are some of the core initiatives you're working on these days?
So we're developing the Sinus Pro, which is a pretty large one. It's 495 megawatt campus south of Lisbon. It's
to all the Bitcoin miners out there, I have your next perfect location.
It's what we're developing, given that we're taking advantage of the scale of the neighboring, the coal power plant, which is being dismantled. It's such an efficiency, and we have a unique horsepower strategy that makes it the most competitive location in Europe, but by a margin, by a significant margin.
What's that margin number?
That I couldn't say without you signing restricted NDA.
Not just you, every listener. Every listener has to, by virtue of listening to this, you're signing the NDA. When is the last time you heard a coal plant and super efficient site used in the same sentence? That's amazing. Clean coal is real.
There was a project for a clean coal allocation, and I went to the earth. Clean coal?
Clean coal.
Yeah.
Clean coal. But pay no mind to the residue on your hands.
That's what you're getting for Christmas.
Right? We are proving a lot of things which seem elusive to some of our clients. 24/7 renewables, delivering off greenwashing, 24/7 renewable. And then that's a combination of assets that we're developing and partners that we're bringing into the project. It is an ecosystem approach. So we are working with neighboring industries to make it more efficient and take it to the next level. And you'd be surprised how many people are open to do it. And it's quite impactful. So the last time I was here at DC, It was the first we're announcing the product. First reaction, I got true. We don't believe you. PowerPoint can handle everything. That was exactly the answer that we got here. 1 year has lapsed. People have started digging and doing the proper due diligence. And it's always rewarding when you're talking with a client and they, you need to speak with this guy. He's going to push your project. He's very big. And they start trying to take it down. And all of a sudden you have this aha moment say, oh, guys, actually, right. Actually,
well, I mean, yeah, it's like any disruption in the space is always questioned, and people try to hold it back because people don't like change.
It's rare, it's rare that you get to talk about something like this that has such a positive impact environmentally, and it's not just like a checkbox that inherently people are going to be skeptical, right? But proving skeptics wrong is always the most fulfilling thing. And I've been doing it for decades.
I started using an expression, which is our clients love the next that has been proven in the last 30 years.
Yes, exactly. Everyone wants the safe thing because that's how they've done it their entire lives. So
Afonso, where do you think the industry needs to go? What's next? What should be and our listeners be looking at or looking out for?
You need more disruptive people. You need more people challenging the status quo and how things are done. There's a big legacy on exactly what you're saying. We're always done it this way. Why should it change? And if you keep on just following the trends that were started in the 1890s, you only get marginal improvements. If you really want to make it, and you need to go to first principles and rethink the entire thing.
And I think part of that probably has to do with also, we have the Nomad Futurist Foundation, right? Our goal, this is not a self-plug, I swear. Our goal is to try to bring in, different perspectives into our industry. And now I think globally, the world is finally on the same page that we are all consumers of digital infrastructure. There's nobody that doesn't, let's say 99% of the people out there are leveraging technology in some way. So, of those people that might not think, this is the industry for them, the way the experience that they have in their lives will probably inform some disruptive thing if they feel like they can come in and like use their perspective to see how we can evolve.
Yeah, it's breaking those barriers, right? We get comfortable in what we do. It's the routines. I mean, that's human nature. We want to have coffee at a certain time of the day and dinner at a certain time. So,
but I'll leave also. It's not a warning. It's more an observation.
You can call it a warning. It's okay.
Yeah. But I've seen the power industry. As you know, power, gas, utilities, these are heavily regulated industries. And the reason why they're heavily regulated was, check the history books. These executives thought everything they did was state secret. And they were very coy on showcasing and being transparent what they were doing. And that created a backlash at the highest forms of government and started self-imposed regulation everywhere in the world. The data center industry needs to understand. If the industry does not want to be regulated and heavily regulated, it needs to improve the reporting. It needs to show what they're doing and why.
Transparency.
You don't need to reveal commercial secrets. No need for that. But there's at least a level of reporting that will help you not to be regulated.
Well, we are going to be regulated. There's no going back.
The problem is how much.
Well, I mean, it's a simple thing. What's absorbed or what goes up doesn't come down. So I think we just need to accept the fact that this is going to be a regulated industry. It's going to be probably more regulated than the financial market segment and other core verticals. The rest, or the monkey in the room, is that it's blind leading the blind who's driving the regulation. So we need to put the right people to drive those regulations that suit the business and the vertical and the sector. That's where the challenge is. I mean, we got the wrong people, the politicians and personal incentives and goals that have driven these behaviors over the years and have led us to where we're at today, whereby we are basically screwing the planet. And that needs to be changed.
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the power, though, I mean, you have an industry there that's got, 100 years, a couple 100 years, and we have a data center industry that is still fairly young. I mean, I feel like I've been in this industry for 150 years, but it's really only been, the last 25 years or so of real, and not even that. I mean, that's 25 years of the data center industry existing. And the last, when have we started talking about hyperscalers? The last 10 years, maybe? So, I think there's no question that those that don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. But, I think we have to take a step back and recognize that we are so young as an industry that the fact that we have this unique element, right, which is cleaning up the planet actually serves to our benefit from a bottom line perspective, because energy is our highest expense in this industry. So if we can focus on renewables and make the world a better place, it also happens to benefit our bottom line. So
that's something that probably you don't know, because it's few people actually understand it. Where we are in terms of renewable targets and so on, it means power systems are going to have a serious issue, coal bin and health balances. And that's where data centers can get it. Data centers can be part of the solution of the problem. That's some of the things that we're working with. System operator, they're super happy that we're coming in. They're super happy about our scale. We're working with, because we help them actually stabilize the grid.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Because there's not going to be this fluctuation in terms of usage, right? But, and then there was a story that came out, was it last week or the week before, that I don't know if it was somewhere in the Nordics or somewhere, you have a data center that's going in there. It's going to eat 2,000 homes with the data center residuals.
That's also a context issue.
Yeah.
So what you find in Europe is most of data centers have been competing against either residential or office space. So the first thing that they will tell you, data centers generate as much jobs as you advertise, and competing with all these you could be deploying here, and you run the numbers. It's stupid. It's building ordinance.
Right. And by the way, why is my Netflix so slow? Why we need more?
I think COVID addressed that issue.
I want to take a picture of what you do.
Why is it not in the cloud right now?
It's all working and it's your fault.
Yeah.
Very good. Looking back at your career and doing what you do today, anything different that you would have done?
I already thought, should I have moved earlier? But then I would miss some of the latest experience, which were so fundamental into what I'm doing here. So I cannot say I would move anything. I mean, it has been an amazing journey and learning experience from since I started, and it's funny when you start your own business, you look back and say, okay, I'm drawing lessons from things like 15 years ago and re-implementing was last year, and you use all of that experience into a new venture, and that's amazing.
So a part of that whole idea of actually us sharing these trials and tribulations and journeys of people like yourself is to help the younger generation probably not make some of those mistakes that we have made. What would you tell the younger generation and help them understand the level of complexity or what they can contribute, or any particular that they should focus or look into as they start getting in real life?
I can say something that I tell everyone who comes to me and asks for career advice. And the thing is, first of all, careers are something very fungible. You select something, you don't expect that you're going to be doing that for the next 30 years. That's not true. It wasn't
but then
true.
Again, it used to be the mindset, right?
Yes.
You find a job and you do that for the rest of your life.
But you'd be surprised how many people say, oh, I got this job, I will never leave it. My life is ruined. Now I'm in a slow death.
Right.
Say, no. No. You will change. You will change careers. You will rethink. The most important thing that you need to bear in mind is collect skill sets. That's what you need to do. And be very good at something. No matter what it is, you need to find something that you're excellent on. Because only when you find true excellency on one axis can you actually start deploying sideways and growing yourself as a professional. A lot of people think, no, I will try to do everything at the same time. Actually, not an expert. That's if you this field where it can really be, usually it's helpful if you like it because you enjoy the ride. Be excellent and then start moving sideways, implementing your note. That's how you're going to build a successful career on anything you do.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, that just purely fits in with what the foundation is doing. We're launching an academy, and that's the whole idea, to help people establish that skill set and not just go vertical, but have the ability to think horizontally as well and learn different platforms and learn from different rates. The way Phil and I talk about it, it's like we're the only industry globally, or the only sector for that matter, that's got some vertical. So you can be in finance, and then the next thing you know, you can be a systems engineer, or you can be a network engineer, or you can potentially never get into law.
All I heard was slow path to death.
Well, Afonso, thank you very much for taking the time and joining us today. This has been excellent. Really enjoyed getting to know you, and thank you for everything that you're doing to save the planet.
Next stop, Lisbon.
You're welcome. Welcome to come and visit anytime you want. Seriously.
Well, we'll make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been great. Nothing lasts forever. Markets will come back, currencies will rebound, businesses will go on, and we'll all move on. That could happen next week, next month, or next year. I'm confident that those who prepare rather than panic will come out of this stronger. Thank you for joining us. This has been brought to you by Nomad Futurist. Check us online at nomadfuturist.com.